right, welcome to this month's edition of Skuid App-etizer. We do them every 3 weeks, I think, right? So sometimes we'll have two in a month. I'm not going to worry about it. Time doesn't work the same way it used to work anyways. So yeah, thank you for joining us. My name is Matt Brown. I'm a product manager here at Skuid. Really excited to be with y'all today. This is a series of webinars that we do looking at all the cool things that you can do with Skuid. Hopefully whet your appetite a little bit, hence the title of them being an appetizer, and get you to think about what's possible. Start to think, maybe we could do this. And this edition of our appetizer is very much along those lines, because we're talking about some things you can do with modern web design with your business apps. Now, that might be back office apps, but really going to be important for front-facing, customer portals, partner portals, that kind of stuff as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get going. I got a few slides here today to get us started, and then Chris Stern, Senior Pre-Sales Solutions Engineer at Skuid, veteran of showing what Skuid can do, is going to be getting into this. Well, Chris is very aesthetically minded. I like aesthetics, but the stuff that Chris makes looks a lot better than the stuff that I make typically. But I like to dive into design trends, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, is some trends with modern web design, mobile and desktop. And specifically, we're going to look at it in the context of Salesforce Experience Cloud. Now, if you've been following Salesforce, then you know that they just rebranded Communities, and they are tying it, in both in terms of marketing and messaging, and then also under the scenes or under the hood, I'm sure as well, tying these products together that are more kind of front-facing. So Communities, Salesforce CMS, Commerce Cloud. They're really leaning into that because, we're talking about COVID-19, 2020. You need to be able to interact with, that front-facing technology in a much more scalable way. You need to be able to get out to your users, to your partners, and we're going to look at some of the things that you can do with that. Related to that is Salesforce's technology around what they call a Mobile Publisher. And that's something that we've been playing around with for a while. And using Mobile Publisher, you can wrap up a Salesforce Lightning community and deploy it as a mobile app. You can do it with communities. You can also do it with internal apps as well. Really cool. It lets you do some really great things with, push notifications, stuff like that. A lot of really cool technology there. And so we're going to look at some of that today and how to do that. But let's talk about where we're going in terms of design. So we're going to look at 5 modern web design trends that I'm shamelessly scraping from all the design trend blogs that are out there. There's so much good stuff. I spent a lot. We all spend a lot of time on Medium looking at what designers are doing. And what we want to do is go look at some of those things that you see in consumer grade, public facing sites, and start to think about how you might use those with a back office application, or might use them in a portal or a community. So we want to get into some of that stuff. What I want to highlight is, the way we think about things. If you ever work with folks in our services group, we kind of think of things in terms of 4 steps. First is utility. The app has to work. Then is efficiency or usability. It needs to work well. Then it needs to be intuitive, easy to learn. And then finally, you want it to be delightful. And so a lot of these things are going to be in that user delight category. And that's really important when it comes to building trust and user loyalty. It's amazing what those little touches will do in keeping your users around in your system. So what are some of the things that we've been seeing and starting to what have we been starting to incorporate in Skuid designs? All right, big one, dynamic colors. So bright colors, gradients, translucency, and opacity. I've seen that on a lot of different blogs. We want to talk about how we can do some of that in Skuid today. Second one, UX writing. So we've got a number of folks at Skuid and Skuid alums that have gone on to some pretty cool things in their career that love to talk about how important UX writing is. And when you think about the flavor of being in an app and having that user experience, huge part of it. So if you use Slack, if you use Product Board, you know, a lot of these things will give you a little bit of flavor text when the page is loading. That goes into your brand feeling. But it also gets into things like what Salesforce is doing with in-app guidance. Okay, how do you guide users? How do you tell that story? And Salesforce is really focused on this from the beginning with Aloha speak. We're not going to use all that corporate jargon. We want to use things in plain words, so that in human words, so that you understand what you're doing. And that's another trend that we see. So we'll talk about how to use that. Micro interactions. All right. So and by the way, we're going to put some links in the chat for where we've gone to see that. So if you want to get some inspiration, there's so much good stuff out there on web design. We'll put a couple of those posts and articles in there. So that UX writing, one place I saw that was Christian over at Wolfpack Digital. Some pretty cool stuff there. And then Vamsi Bachu at UX Collective was writing about micro interactions. And basically what we mean when we talk about this is they're like any other interactions with devices, is what he says. Used to communicate meaningful feedback to the users, because the user wants to know what happens when an action is performed. So communicating meaningful feedback. That's everything from subtly changing colors to kinetics and getting some motion in your design. We'll talk about how to do some of that in Skuid. All right, here's a big word, neomorphism. This is coined by Michael Malovich. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. But again, we'll put the link there in the chat. So if you're familiar with skeuomorphism, that's this idea which you see in material design, where it looks physical, it's tactile. And so neomorphism is, someone described it as a love child between the material design, which Google has, and then flat design. So it's physical, but it's a little bit more subtle. You get this kind of embossed look if you've seen it on Dribbble or any of those design blogs. So it's pretty cool. It's a great fit, I think, possibly, for mobile, where you're actually touching the screen. So if you want to indicate to the user, hey, this is something that you're interacting with, that can really help. And I want to give some credit here. We'll get into the details of this later, but Tyrant Christian on our design team at Skuid, and then our engineering team have given us a ton of controls about how you can control shadows in the DSS, which is how we're going to be able to do some of those cool things with neomorphism or neo-skeuomorphism. All right. And then
Matt, real quick, there's a link in the chat. Our colleague Annie is crucially dropping in links in the Zoom chat so that you can check it out. I'll be honest, for a second, Matt, I saw I saw Michael Malowicz, and there was a split second. I was like, oh my word, he's on the call and he just posted the link to himself. But I got really excited. But it's actually just Annie being clever and saying, here's the details on this guy. So sadly, he's not. Maybe one day he'll be on our webinars.
We really appreciate your contribution.
Really appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right, and then finally, the dark mode returns. So if it really needs no introduction, we've all used dark mode for different things, Apple, Reddit, all that stuff. And Salesforce released this last year, but they disabled it, I think, about 7 months ago because of performance issues and stuff like that. So if you want to build some apps, whether it's for your communities or for back office apps, you can do that with Skuid. And I threw a dad joke in there starring Christian Sales app. And he had some really good ones too. Robert Appinson will be the new Batman apparently. And Ben Affleck was the other one. So we said come for the dad jokes. We're not joking there. All right, so those are 5 trends that we're seeing. Chris, do you want to show us how we can get these in Skuid?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start from the top, where we're going to get into some of the dynamic colors and gradients and that kind of fun stuff. So let me share my screen. And yeah, I should be seeing a mobile like ordering device. Are you seeing that, Matt? Is that coming through for you?
It's coming through.
Beautiful. Okay.
Cool.
And so what I'm going to show here is before we get to gradients, which I'm really excited about, but this is where Skuid in the Design System Studio, we let you create these things called style variants. And basically it is a couple different versions of the same thing. And so we've got the gray card right here that you can see around the various menu items. And what we're going to do is apply a style variant condition that whenever I add an item to my cart, we are going to change the style to be a blue card. So if I add an item, we're going to change the card to blue. We're also going to change the price to a little bit more visually attention grabbing, basically wanting to indicate to the user, hey, the state of this has changed. This is a selected state, so on and so forth. And what's really fun about setting this up in Skuid is if I pop over to our Design System Studio. So here we go.
Where you're doing all of this without code.
All without code. Yep. Great
code.
point, Matt.
No
Yep.
CSS. You're just doing this using our declarative configuration in the Skuid's Design System Studio. Cool.
Exactly. So in the Design System Studio, and this is a centralized place where you're able to organize all of your different your colors, like your different fonts, your font sizes, you can see over here typography, so spacing, shadows, opacity, borders, all those fun things, and you're able to create variants of them, so multiple versions of borders to fit the type of look and feel that you're going for. And so for those cards that I made for the ordering app, I have my light purple blue color, which I'm using as the selected state. And I have a gray further down this list, this light gray. Really creative naming there on my part. And then going to the wrapper. So these are all, I've switched from variables to components up here in the top left. And these are all the ways that you can present data to the user. These are all kind of the UI elements that you can style, leveraging the things that you've created in your variables. So if I go to my wrapper, I've got a lot of different wrappers in here that I'm using. I've got my light blue background variant. And the way that I style that is I just brought in for the shade of blue that I wanted to be that particular background. I'm drawing from all the variables that I created. So this isn't you like pasting random hex codes around all over the place. This is a really nice way to keep a consistent design and not stray outside of, the temptation of little one-offs. And
no, that's great. So let me stop there for a second, because this is one of the themes that we're talking about is bright colors. Okay, so we can add our colors as variables to our Design System Studio, and then those colors are available for us to use then throughout the rest of the DSS when we're creating these variants. And so in your app, you've got those bright blue buttons. It definitely has a bright feel to it, and we're able to make sure that we're using those same colors and we aren't slightly off here, having to remember which hex code and stuff, using those colors as variables in the DSS. All right, cool. So those are colors. You got some bright colors there. And gradients was one of the other things. How do we do gradients in Skuid?
Yep. So shameless plug for cssgradient.io.
Yep.
This is a really cool tool where you can paste in a bunch of different hex codes that you want to have it generate a gradient, like kind of through all of those different colors. They've got some great ones here to kind of get you started. You can take away, or it's super flexible, and I actually got really distracted on this thing, just creating cool gradients. But what's neat about it is, so if you can also change the angle that it's coming in at. So if I want to switch that to 90, then it's going to adjust, and it's generating
like
then to 85.
No. You've got an 80s vibe with the
80. Yeah, I was like,
I want to get the Tron grid behind it, and then like some like metal plated letters across there, and neon. That's good.
Nice. I made it 85 too, because that's what I heard. It sounded cool.
Okay,
good. And it's generating though the definition down here below. So it's, as you're adjusting and making tweaks here to what you want your gradient to be, it's generating that definition. And so I'm gonna, that's cool. I didn't notice that. It applies the gradient to the hover state of your.
Oh, brilliant.
That's actually really awesome. Okay. Man.
Cool. So you just copy that.
So I'm copying that. And then what I'm going to do is, so the thing that I'm interested in is just that bottom piece, this linear gradient. And so I'll hop over back to my design system, and I want to create a new color now that is that that gradient. And so I'll create this. I'll say awesome gradient, and I'm going to
Is
throw
awesome.
in.
Maybe even radical.
That's a great point. And so when I paste in that definition
Cool.
that this awesome website kicked out,
Love it.
I've got that now. And to Matt's point, like I'm able to leverage this in other places. So now that I have awesome gradient, if I wanted to go and maybe create a button like how they did for that hover state, let's create a button really fast, and we'll make this button nice and tall so we get a nice yeah, we'll make this rather large. And actually, I'll just copy it right away. So Skuid gives you a ton of control, again, without any CSS. For buttons, you know, they have focus and hover and active and selected and disabled states. And so for the hover state, I'm going to copy exactly what I just saw on that website, which was awesome gradient. So we'll do that. And now if I hover over my button, there's the awesome gradient. And you can configure the border.
It's a portal into
yeah,
it's
great. Something. That's pretty cool.
All right, that's awesome. So in order to get bright colors, gradients, opacity, and all that stuff, I need to know how to Google, and I need how to do some copy paste, and then I just need to go put that in here, and then I can
super complex stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so moving on, second one here. We've talked about UX writing and microcopy, storytelling driven experiences. That's a big part of how the brand feels. So what do you have here and that lines up with those themes?
Yeah, so what we're doing here is I'm going to hit cancel order, and it's going to take us back to sort of the welcome or starting screen, as it were, for this app.
Very nice.
Yep, and we've got a gradient coming in because those are awesome. Yep. And so microcopy, here we have an example of just get that grub, which is more fun than create order or start process or something along those lines. And full disclosure, or go ahead, Matt, sorry.
I just said I'm a little bit hungrier now. Because
absolutely.
Copy. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've been staring at this menu for ages prepping for this, and it's killing me. The grilled halibut looks better every time. Yeah. But the microcopy here is just, as Matt was saying, it's kind of that more almost the language of your brand, and sometimes more of that wit or whimsy or just something to like make a user smile and just be like, oh, that's cooler than saying save or submit order or create or something along those lines. And what's really cool about this microcopy, in my opinion, is that because Skuid is, again, we're like UI UX focused, one of the things that we can do with that is dynamically bring in just a bunch of fun labels for that button that don't have to exist in your database. We call those UI only fields.
Yeah.
And what that allows for is, so if I cancel this order and go back, I think we're going to see a different fun little message right there. And so awesome. You don't have to build this. Yeah, you don't have to have these things sitting in a database somewhere. We just created a couple UI only fields, and then we set up an action framework where if the user ever goes back to that screen, basically just flip through them and see some different things. So there's feast time, get that grub. You can put in whatever you want. But yeah, just a good example of how do you make these apps feel more human and more personal and more fun too. So
hey, there's a good question in the chat. What mobile emulator are you using there?
Oh, nice. I am just using Chrome's.
It's built in. So if you just do it, inspect, and
then down here in the bottom left, you can toggle the device toolbar, and then they give you several different devices that you can choose in terms of like what the screen size is. And I don't think it's on by default, but if you want to see like the actual device frame, you can
very cool.
here on the right, and you can add the device frame to it. I've got mine on, so it says hide. That's how you do that.
Awesome. Okay, so all right, so you've got some microcopy, and I want to just take a brief second there. Again, the way that you do that is you can create a UI only model, or you can be on a normal model with Skuid. You can set up a UI only formula field. But the point is you can store those kinds of variables and then use them anywhere you want. You might use it as a label on a button. You might use it in some text displaying a message to the user. But the point is Skuid gives you these tools to do things there at the UI level for stuff that you don't necessarily want to save back in the database. So, in this case, maybe it's a field. You don't want to necessarily store that flavor text on your field label in Salesforce. I really want it to be at the application level, and Skuid's going to let you do that. So, okay, cool. So, all right, so we've got some dynamic copy there. Now, I don't know if you are able to show it here. You can get this on your phone, right? And that's another place that just using Salesforce, not even without Skuid, we can make this a little bit more human. So did you say you had some micro interactions set up using the mobile publisher?
Yes. So not using the mobile publisher, I've got micro interactions set up that we can show how to extend that in the Design System Studio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this is a page. This is a demo within a demo, as it were, and a big shout out to Win at Skuid. She built this. She's I saw internally someone referred to her as the queen of builders, and I would agree. If you go to skuid.com and scroll down, I think it's on the homepage. Annie, maybe you can throw the link in there. But we have this new really cool video that's sped up of Win building an app.
Oh, man.
And it's I think we sped it up to like a minute or something like that, and it's like a 30-minute build sped up to a minute, which is entertaining in its own way. But
Chris,
really
let me
cool
stop you
stuff.
for a second because I tripped over myself. I confused myself. What I actually meant was push notifications, not
push notifications.
Too many. You don't need to show it. I just want to point out that wrapping something up with Mobile Publisher and then deploying it, you can set up push notifications using Process Builder in Salesforce. It takes like minutes to set up. I think you and I, we were both surprised at just how easy it was to get that going. And when we talk about going back to that previous point of UX writing and humanizing it, that's another really good tool in the toolbox that we don't necessarily need to get into here. Just want to let folks know, really good combo when you think about those mobile apps. But yeah, moving into micro interactions, this is that third piece. I want to, again, we're talking about communicating meaningful feedback. There's motion design, there's kinetics involved, making it feel just like it's responding to the user. So there, you do, before we get into the extensible thing, I want to go back to your card that you had, because really simple, without it even getting into cool stuff you can do with code, you're just changing the color when the user added one of those items there, right?
Yep.
And can you pull up the composer and show us how you're managing that logic?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the Skuid App Composer, and let Matt or I know if you want to deep dive it sometime. There's a lot here, and I'll just stay focused on the interaction piece.
Yeah.
But essentially, we have a Skuid deck component, which is iterating through all of our menu item records, and that's what all those little cards are.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep.
And so that wrapper is what I showed in the DSS, where I had the light blue wrapper and the light gray wrapper.
Okay.
The way that you set that is there's a style property for every component, and so I'm choosing of all the different wrappers I have. I want this wrapper to be the light gray background, which is why on page load all of those cards are light gray. But there's this really awesome, powerful thing, display logic and style variant conditions. And this is where you can set up certain conditions under which a different style variant is leveraged. And so I'm saying to bring in my light blue background style variant, and then I define the logic for when I want that to happen.
Cool. So yeah, let me stop here for a second, because this is a recurring pattern with Skuid. Just about everywhere you go in the Skuid Composer, when you're configuring your components in there, or if you have a field in a table or in a form, you have this display logic that you can configure. And you can choose render conditions when something is shown or hidden. With a number of things, you have enable conditions. So with buttons or fields, you can choose to make it disabled based on certain criteria. And then you can apply these style variant conditions based on certain logic. And so what's great about this is I don't have to go build out the same thing twice and then render it based on certain criteria. I can build out one form and then just apply certain styles conditionally. So previously, in the old Skuid days, you could do that kind of, you're talking about conditionally applying CSS. You're in JavaScript and CSS land. But using display logic and the DSS capabilities here, we can do all of that without code. So micro interactions, a lot of the time, you can just do what you need to just by conditional display logic with your components. Okay, that's awesome. That's a great example. Now, when we talk about some of these cool things with kinetics and motion design, making something, feel like it's moving, that's where we start to get into, wanting to be able to extend Skuid just a little bit further. So yeah, what are you showing us here?
Yep. So again, shout out to Win who put this together. These are just a couple examples of where we've extended some of those components with with extensibility, and I'll show you that in the DSS kind of where you bring that in. So here's an example of where the card just kind of pops on hover. There's a bouncy checkbox, which is fun. Just a little
Yep,
yeah,
totally.
Yeah, I like that. And then a blurred background, which is a really nice design pattern as well.
Yeah.
Just make things pop a little bit. And
Okay.
so we'll show you for today. We'll just really quickly run through and show kind of how you can extend with a little bit of code here. So let me grab the
Right. So as you're pulling that up, yeah. So we want Skuid to be incredibly powerful for no-code developers and low-code developers. But there are going to be times where you come across specific design requirements where it just didn't make sense for us to do that kind of feature in this component, or yet like not enough people have requested it, but we want to give you the options to go add that. So yeah, here at the Design System Studio, you can go to your component variant, and then you can extend that component variant with just the little bit of code that you need to do kinetics or motion design. So what do you have here? We've got the bouncy checkbox.
Yep. So this is what you need. So you over here on the left is kind of what you've got available to you in terms of modifying. And then over here on the right is what I've pasted in. So I've hooked into the checkbox checked state, and then I've created my animation for what that's going to look like when it's checked. And you can see that little bounce right there that it did. Maybe I want it to last a little bit, so I'll do like 0.75, so it's a little bit easier to see. And there's a nice little bounce. And so that is that's all you need to do for the in that case it bounces. And actually there's another.
The Pixar lamp would be proud.
Oh man, great reference. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll call this the Pixar switch. Actually, that's really good, Matt.
Oh, we probably can't call it that.
That's true.
I just call it bouncy switch or something like that.
I didn't capitalize it, so maybe that's fine. But this is the same idea, right? So if I paste in my properties, this is going to need to be switch. So I'm looking to switch on as my test here. So switch on. Let's see if oh, that's cool. Well, actually, it'd look better. Let's change these to X because the switch is moving left to right. And so let's make this look a little bit cooler. Live demo here. So let's see what we've got. So I'll turn that off. That's honestly pretty cool.
Man, it feels,
slow it down,
like it's just really moving fast. I love it.
Yeah, that's fun. Nice.
We should go make like a Dr. Seuss app style where it's just like there you go, the not Pixar switch. That's great. Okay, cool. So motion kinetics related to these micro interactions, feedback. All right. Okay, so just two more. Let's keep it moving. Big word, neomorphism, skeuomorphism. What do you got?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there's that embossed look and feel.
Yes.
This is another one of those websites where you can go to generate the code you need, right?
Yep. This one is really awesome. So what I did here is you can drop in any hex code that you want. I'm actually going to do a different shade of green because that's what I had prepped for. And then really conveniently, they've given you several different ways in which you can kind of change that 3D look. So you've got sort of a rounded top, the inset or recessed, right up, dimpled, all that kind of stuff. And then you can mess around with the sizes. And then it is also generating the definition of those two shadows that you need to get this look. And because Skuid's design system is super awesome for our shadows, and I've gone ahead and created these, but you can add multiple shadows really
Awesome.
easily. And so all I did was I pasted in, I had my shade of green. I grabbed the definition that it kicked out, and then I replicated that here with my colors,
Okay.
and then put that in a Skuid page. And so here's the Skuid page.
Whoa.
So there's a little pop right there. And I did an inset one as well, which, yeah, if you want to do inset, you tick the box that says inset and it switches it to inset. So
Awesome.
really easy. But what's cool about this is also is a little bit of an interaction. So slide to see inset card. So if we move this, I'm going to change the style variant to now show the inset shadow variant of that same card.
And did that animate to? Why does it? What does it? How many variants are you going between?
2. The animation surprised me, Matt. I genuinely didn't expect that, but Skuid just did that. Yeah, it was really, it actually looked really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was fun to discover. But yeah, that's a little bit of neomorphism or skeuomorphism or whatever you want, and just mostly just fun to be able to see, like, yeah, you can do it. Ton of flexibility with what you can design, and again, no CSS or code to create this.
So it might be a fad, might be gone in a year, but if you want to try it out for a couple months, you can, and it's not.
Yes.
Wow, very, very cool. Okay, so there is one more thing that we want to show. Where did it go? I lost my my browser here. Oh no. Oh, here it is. That's why. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the last thing that we wanted to show is...
I stopped sharing, so go for it.
All right. Is our return of the dark mode. All right, this is not a great dark mode. I would love to spend some more time. It's not as beautiful as the neomorphism that you just showed, but using the design system, you can go and create variants of those components. So if I'll go ahead and zoom in here, but I can go to my form or my table component, and we've got kind of our default styles for the design system, our fonts, sizes, all that stuff, and that's great. And then using child variants, I can create a child variant and say, I want to inherit, all the font styles, the size, border width, all that stuff. I just want to change some of the colors. And so I can go in and change the background color, the font color, stuff like that. And then I can apply this variant, which I'm calling default dark, at the composer level. And now I can say, hey, I got a dark mode. And I can even make that something that responds to user changes. So they could have one of those fancy switches and toggle between light mode and dark mode if they want. So really basic. I've got, just a list here with a flyout panel. But we do still have a lot of light up there with the Salesforce header. And I want to point one last thing out. When you build a Skuid page, it's going to work the same in Visualforce or Lightning. So I can go to this page in Visualforce if I want to blow everything out and just have complete control over the page and do something like that, which I might want for a dark mode experience. And it's the same Skuid page, we're just changing the environment that we're in. So, okay, mile a minute. That was a whirlwind. Probably bit off more than I could chew, picking 5 design points for us to try and cover in 30 minutes or so. But let's stop there. Any questions before we finish up today? We covered a lot.
The last thing that I'd throw in, Matt, as we're waiting for any questions, what's really cool about this is not only can you deliver like really awesome designs with a ton of flexibility and kind of match whatever sort of style guides or branding or just cool stuff that you want to do really, really easily. But this is really powerful when it comes to accessibility too. Because oftentimes like different sightedness has different needs. So when you think about like color contrast or like size of typography or things like that, Skuid lets you really quickly and easily design applications that maybe the field labels on forms are larger and of a stronger contrast to the background of the screen. So you can really take in a ton of consideration for accessibility with also not only matching branding and styling, but also making things much easier to see and comprehend from an accessibility standpoint too, which is really exciting and a great use case for this.
No, that's absolutely true. And I've seen some really, really cool use cases for that with Skuid. All right, I'm not seeing too many questions. If this is interesting to you, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, check out the community. It's just community.skuid.com. You can go there and see what Skuid builders are doing, the questions that they're asking. There's a lot of great stuff, troubleshooting, knowledge bases, all that stuff. But yeah, if this is interesting to you, go there, ask questions, show us what you're doing. We'd love to see it. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Let's see, last week or last time we did one of these, Don, Susan, and I, we talked about ditching spreadsheets, automating processes. That's available on the webinars if you want to go check that out. We also did a recent webinar with Eric Wahlberg over at Marianne Liebert Publishing. He joined us at the with some folks over at the App Exchange Hour webinar. That was a great time. We talked about some of the things you can do with related lists. Coming up in December, we will be doing one with Rob Hatch, another product manager like myself here at Skuid. He is a big data nerd. No, not big data. He's a big nerd about data. And that's December 3rd. We'll be talking about, I think it'll be holiday themed. I think we might talk about decking the halls of your app. And there may be a Santa countdown or something like that with a REST API. I'm sure it'll be fun. We might even throw some Christmas sweaters on. It'll be after Thanksgiving at that point, so we shouldn't make too many people angry with that. But anyways, yeah, please join us for that. The webinars are on the website. Join us on the Skuid community. Thank you, Chris. This was awesome. Really, really cool to see. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you around.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Always fun. Have a good one.